Hello, this is Enrique, and this is Roots in Lowell, the Mill City Girls podcast. Um, this episode it's gonna be pretty awesome. It is an interview with the other co-founder of Mill City Girls, Lydia Sisson, and I just kind of wanted to do this so kind of like go full circle because I know the last episode I did was the one with Francie, so I wanted to like see kind of like the both perspectives of kind of how they went from just being living alone and how they got to law and all these things to like starting this organization that is Mill City Girls today. And yeah, I just really wanted to like pick their brains, and I really wanted to speak with Lydia about this. So yeah, like we coordinated and we recorded this whole thing, and it's also one of my favorite conversations I've ever had. So I really hope you do enjoy it. And here we go. I really don't want to talk too much about this because the whole conversation it's gonna be so cool that like I don't want to even like spoil anything else apart from what I already did. If you can even call that a spoiler. So yeah, without further ado, here we go. Hi, Lydia.
Hi, Enrique.
I'm great. I'm actually super psyched for this. Actually, I'm gonna start with a quick question, because you're the original founder of MCG Mill City Girls, right? And the whole point of this, right? I've been doing this year, kind of like the origin story of the organization.
Okay.
All right. So like we already talked about, kind of like from like an employee perspective, for example, the first one I talked with Jessica, we talked about kind of like how she got involved, and then kind of looked into the future and all that. Then, and then talked with Francie for a really long time about how she got involved into all this. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, but I really need to pick on Lydia's brain because that's the original idea came from you. Correct?
Well, I think it was a collaboration.
It was a collaboration?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like, I moved to Lowell in 2006, and I was working at UTech. I met Jessica Wilson there.
Okay.
And I also met my partner, Derek, there.
Hi, Derek.
Yeah. And, then I left Lowell, and then I came back because Derek and I got together, and I moved into his house. And I had met Francie actually when she was interviewing for the job that I was leaving at UTech. And then we became friends. We hung out in Cambridge. We both lived in Cambridge and Somerville area. And we became friends. And she joined the farm that I was running. She started buying veggies from me. We grew the flowers for her wedding. So we became fast friends. And then she and Aaron moved into Derek's house that he owned after they got married. And that was kind of like when the sparks started to fly. Because Francie and I were both getting up so early and driving to other communities. I was driving to run my farm, Luna Farm in North Reading, and she was driving to Cambridge. And we were both like, we just basically slept in the house. And we're like, what are we doing driving to these other communities when like we want to do something here where we live? But so I was already kind of trying to figure out what did I want to do more community-based work. So I started going to UMass Lowell for my master's.
Okay.
And that's where I met John Wooding.
John Wooding, the chair of the board right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was my professor, and I was doing a master's program there. And he really helped me think about doing a project for my master's. And the project was really based around the community food assessment, which I was working with the Lowell Food Security Coalition and New Entry and some other folks around that, NCTI, and a lot of folks around that. And that's kind of like where MCG, the idea started to form with Francie. Like we were just talking all the time when we were cooking all the crazy food I was bringing home from my farm, and, just about how do we do the work we want to do closer to home.
Okay. And actually, I have a question about the master's, right?
Yeah.
So your master's, was it related to agriculture?
No, it was regional economic and social development.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that program's not there anymore at UMass Lowell, but it was an awesome program. It's Bob Parent and Phil Moss and John Wooding, some other professors. That it was really Lowell focused. It used Lowell as kind of a laboratory, and it was It was a really fun master's program, actually. I think for somebody who didn't think that they would ever get a master's.
You didn't think you were gonna get a master?
No, I thought I was just gonna be farming like my whole life.
Okay,
probably.
okay.
Yeah, I feel like now if I were to go get more degrees, it'd be like in soil science or something like that.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel like that sometimes. I'm still only have bachelor's, but like, you remember, like I would always be like, I'm gonna do a master's now, but then I'd be like, would I? You know what I mean?
I know. I'm kind of a bad student now.
I'm thinking about that too. I'm like, would I be a good student? I don't know.
Yeah.
I did that one class. Remember my very first year? I did pretty well actually. I did pretty well. I think I could do that. So actually, I asked that because I do remember, and that is something that like you kind of mentioned to me like way back, and I've also heard it from common friends that we have and everything. But you did do some work with the movement of farmers without land in Brazil.
Yeah, I did.
I really wanna know about that because that was definitely before MCG.
Yes,
of course.
that was when I was in college. Yeah.
Yes, I really want to know about that.
Okay.
And also, is that like some sort of like a quote unquote catalyst, right? That kind of like made you start thinking about like food this way rather than just being like a commercial farmer and all that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when I was in college, I worked at this nonprofit called the Poughkeepsie Farm Project. It was on land that was at Vassar. I went to Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Okay.
And I was doing their farmers market, and my favorite part after the farmers market, I loved the harvest because like everybody brought snacks, and it was like so fun to wake up early. But after every farmers market, we donate all the food to this women's shelter. And from that point on, I just knew like getting food to people who like are in moments of need was like really important to me. But then I decided to study abroad in Brazil, and I went to the Amazon. I lived in the city of Belém, and we did a lot of work, kind of studying the landless workers movement, or Movimento Sem Terra, and it is one of the largest social movements in Latin America. And so I did have this pivotal moment where I was working in this community. I was like going and researching in this community and living there. Super weird. I just like was in the middle of nowhere, very lost as a human. But I this leader in that group took me to another small community who had been squatting on their land for a long time.
Okay.
And these people were living in plastic tents, basically.
Okay, wow.
Like just plastic, creating little tents. Because in Brazil, if you squat on land for, I think, 7 years, and you work it, you will be granted the right to use it. It's like some old law.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, I was there when they found out that the president, Lula, who was the president then, had granted them that land.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, I had this beautiful, like somebody gave me this coconut ring. I had it for years and years. It was the most beautiful moment I've ever experienced of people, families, just like in pure weeping joy that they had the ability to survive because they had land.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that that's where like the understanding of communal movements and communal access to land became really part of what I thought was like part of the solution, right? Anyway, so yeah, I wrote my senior thesis on that in college, and it's really beautiful. But I also like collective action and centered around agriculture was kind of my thing. Yeah,
that's so cool. I actually never heard that. Like I've only heard like, oh yeah, like Lydia like was sometime in Brazil, but I didn't know how like involved you were in there. How long were you over there?
Just five months.
That's like almost a year. I mean, that's that's a long time.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So
it was
cool.
an amazing experience at a pivotal moment in my life. And so I think it's true when I went and I started farming by myself and only selling to people who could afford my food, and it was very isolating for me as an individual. Lowell offered this opportunity of
Hello, this is Enrique, and this
movement.
is Roots in Lowell, the Mill City Girls podcast.
One thing that I think is so important about the origin story
this
about Mill City
episode
Girls
is going to be
I thought it was
pretty
gonna be
awesome.
A farm. I was like, I want to run a farm. I wanted farm to school.
An interview
And
with
then the thing that
the other
actually started
co-founder
Mill
of
City
Mill
Grows
City Grows,
is
Lydia
Rotary
Sisson.
Community
Yeah, I
Garden.
say Rotary,
And
yeah.
Dave
I just kind of
Benzina,
wanted to do
coach
this so kind
in
of like
Back Central, in that Back
go
Central
full circle,
neighborhood group.
because I know the
They
last
in the
episode I
city,
did
like,
was
they were the
the
people
one
that
with
put their-
Francie, so
put their
I wanted
stake
to
and said,
like
like,
see kind of like
you
the
want to
both
do this? And Francie and I were like,
perspectives
yeah,
of,
we'll figure out how to run a community garden.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We can do it.
and how they got
I
to
still
roll
have
and all
never
these
been a
things
member of
to
a
like
community
starting this
garden
organization.
in my whole life. So
I mean, I think you can say you were like.
Yeah.
I think
You
you
wanted
you
to,
don't
like,
have to grow
Yes.
pick their
in a garden to
brains
be a
and-
member
and
of
I
a
really wanted
community
to
There you
garden.
go.
You know what I
about
mean?
this.
So I would say you were.
So
and I
yeah,
think,
like,
you
we
know,
coordinated
Enrique,
and
you
we
know this about
recorded
me, like
this
the
whole
community
thing,
gardens
and
always were like,
it's
it was
also
hard for
one
me
of
because
my
there are a lot of
favorite
social
conversations
dynamics.
I've
And
ever
Yeah,
had.
you know, I'm a worker.
So,
I like
yeah,
go
really
social.
hope you
Sometimes
do
it's hard for
enjoy
me.
it.
But
And here we go. I really
still
don't want
to
to talk
this
too
day,
much
and I no longer live in Lowell,
about
but
this
it's
because
the
the whole
place that makes me the
conversation is
happiest
gonna
when
be
I
so
come back
cool
and see Mill
that
City Grows
like
is the
I don't want to
vibrancy
even like
of
spoil
those
anything
gardens.
else apart
And you and I have
from
put
what
so
I already
much-
did. If you can even call that a
so
spoiler.
much love
So
into them, but to see them
yeah, without
working
further ado,
Yeah.
here
as
we
they
go.
should.
That is awesome. Yeah.
Hi,
I
Lydia.
Hi, Enrique.
Also like driving around.
I'm great. I'm actually super psyched
Yeah.
for this.
But
whenever I get to
so,
go through one, I'm like,
actually, I'm
yeah.
gonna start with
I remember when
with
that
a
was
quick question.
nothing in there. You know what I mean?
Or when you
Because
think
you're
of like,
the
oh, I remember
original
this person.
founder
Yeah,
of
they're still growing
MCG,
those
Mill
beautiful
City
things.
Girls.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
I saw the pictures of the Rotary
and
like
the
fall
whole
festival
point
that
of
they
this,
threw,
right?
and it
Oh,
made
yeah.
me teary.
Kind of like
Yeah,
the
it was so
origin
good.
story
And
of
it's to
the
see some of the same
organization.
people that were the very first day.
Right. So like we already talked about
Which is
kind of
awesome.
like
Yeah, and actually,
like,
this
an
also brings
employee
me back
perspective.
in
For
this
example,
whole
the
thing,
first
you
one
know,
I talked with Jessica.
you know,
we
because
talked about
when
kind
I
of like
first
how she got
started on
involved,
MCG, like, we
and then
only
kind of
had
looked into the
3
future and all
gardens at
that.
that
Then
point.
Yep.
you know,
or
and
had
then,
just built
talked with Francie
like,
for
or
a really long
expanded
time
Smith
about
Street,
how
'cause
she got
remember-
involved.
I will never
into all
forget that
this.
was like my work.
And
One
then
of
I
my
was
working
like,
interviews
but
was building Brett. That's
I really need to
Street
speak
expansion,
on Lydia's
and there's like
thing
that
because
picture of me
that's
holding like the drill, like
the
going like this,
original,
like y'all
came
posted
from
like back
your
then.
from you.
But
Correct?
But
Well,
and
I
this is
think
actually
it was
another
a
question that I have.
collaboration.
It was a
You.
collaboration
Yeah.
that
I
I
mean,
always
I
like think
feel
about,
like,
and I had never asked this to you.
You know, I moved to Lowell
and
in
it's like
2006.
you know when we had
and I
the
was
Mill
working
City
at
Girls had the
UTEC.
farm
I
in
met
downtown,
Jessica Wilson
right?
there.
Like that is not the
And I
regular
also
farm.
met my partner, Derek.
I remember. Hi, Derek.
Yeah.
From way
And,
back, even before. I'm
you know,
pretty
then
sure it
I
was even
left
before MCG
Lowell,
existed,
and
right?
then
Like
came
I would
back
walk
'cause Derek
around
and I
that
got
street all the
together,
time, and I would always
I
see
moved
like
into his
someone
house.
growing in a
And
corner
that's Yep.
of there, like
I
had like a
met
little
Francie actually.
greenhouse.
I know.
I
When she
don't
was
remember.
interviewing for the job. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
leaving at
Sometimes I would just stop and
then
talk.
we became friends.
with her.
We hung out. In
I mean,
Cambridge.
like
We both
it's
lived
the
in
same thing. I mean,
Cambridge
it's
in
been like over a
Somerville
decade,
area,
I guess, at this
and
point.
we
It's been a
became
while.
friends,
Yeah, it's been a while. So I
and
can,
she
I
joined the
kind of,
farm
I
that was
remember
running.
vaguely
I know.
even.
I
Started
know what
buying
you're
veggies
talking
from
about.
But
me.
yeah, and-
we grew the flowers for her
But
wedding.
then, like, this is kind of where I want to like tie it up,
so
right?
we became
Like,
fast friends, and then
you
she and
know,
Aaron
like,
moved into Derek's
I know,
house
like
that he
the
owned
one thing I do know is that
after
I've
they
always
got
wanted
married.
to like,
And that
it
was
be
kind
a
of like
farm,
when
an
the
urban
sparks
farm.
started to fly, because Francie and I were both
And
getting up
I know that was the
so
very
early and
first
driving to other
urban site that
communities.
we
I was
did, like,
driving
that
to
wasn't
run my
a farm.
farm.
It wasn't a community
farm
garden.
in North
Yeah.
Reading, and she was
And
driving to
I also
Cambridge.
know, like, actually, the way I
and
found
we
out
both,
about
like,
it,
we
right,
just basically
was
slept
that I
in the
was
house,
like,
and
okay,
we're,
I always
walking.
I was
doing-
walking, yeah.
You walked by us in the
wanna do something
greenhouse
here where we
at the boys at the police precinct.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I
was already
remember
kind
you
of trying
every
to
day
figure out
seeing
what
you.
I wanted to
And then the one day I
do
just straight up
community-based
being like,
work,
because
so
I saw you, I
started
never
going to
had
Mass
noticed you
Bowl for
until
my
that day,
master's.
and I just like,
Okay.
And
you
that's
came
when
in.
I
right,
met
and I
John
just came in, yeah.
I know. I remember that
Share the
vividly.
board
And then
right
you
now.
come
Yes.
in and help.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
he
yeah.
was my
But
professor,
like,
and
but then
I
with
was
the
doing a
with the
master's
urban
program
farm
there,
side,
and
that was like a
he
pretty
really
much right up
helped
the
me
street.
think about doing a
Because I would
project
walk there
for
pretty
my
much every
master's.
day as
And
well.
the project was
You know,
really
like
based
there was
around
like
the community
like
food
a time that I
assessment,
was
which
walking
is
like,
working
oh,
with
you
the
know, like
Food
the ladies
Security
doing again, that's
Coalition
awesome. You
and
know,
the
I like
Entry,
something to say
the
hi,
other
oh,
folks
what you're growing
around
and whatnot.
NCTI
But then
and
one day
other
I
folks around
walked,
that.
and
that's
it's just
kind of like where
super like
MCG, the idea
because it was like
started to
before. I
form
remember
with
that was
Francie,
like
we were
it was
just
like on a
talking
little
all the time when
corner
we were
right near
all
with
the
the
crazy food I was
the
bringing
water
home from
spigot is
my
or whatever.
farm,
Yep.
And then all of a
just
sudden
about
it's
how do we
just
do
kind
the
of
work
like
we want to do.
this very
closer to
cute,
home.
almost like curated
Okay.
like
And
land.
actually,
like
I have a
house,
question
and I
about
was
the
like,
masters, right?
Yeah.
What is
So
going on
your
in here?
masters
Like,
were
like
was
how did
related to
like how did they, you know what I'm saying? In my mind, I'm
Regional
still like,
economic
how
and
did this
social
lady like
Oh,
so
wow.
quickly?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that
Well,
program
that was
And how that
Jim.
became-
That
But
was
it
Jim
was
Lachulis.
Okay, yeah.
So
Bob Perrett
Jim
and Phil Moss and John
that lot. I don't know
Wooding,
if he still does,
some
but
other professors
owns Mill Number 5,
that is
and
really Lowell focused. Lowell is kind
I
of a
don't know how we got
laboratory, and it
connected
was
with
him. It was a
that-
really fun master's
really wish I
program.
could remember
Actually,
her
I
name,
think for
but she
somebody who
was
didn't
growing
think that they would ever get a
a
master's.
garden, and I
You
want
didn't
to say
think
she
you were
was
gonna get a
donating
master?
everything to
No,
the
I thought it was
Transitional
just gonna be
Living
farming.
Center.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like now if I were to go get more degrees, it'd be like
lot
for
of
the
these
beautiful
soil
flowers
science
around
or something like
Yeah. I
Love
feel
that
you.
woman.
I feel like
for
that
some
sometimes.
reason, she
I mean,
wasn't able
I'm
to
still
keep
only
going,
have
and Jim
bachelor's,
asked
but like
us, and
you remember, like
one
I
of us
would
was
always
like,
be
"Well,
like,
Jim,
I'm gonna do a master's now,
you
but
know,
then I'd be
we
like,
gotta get new
would I?
soil,
You know what I mean?
I know.
He was just
I
like,
know. Kind of a bad
and he
student.
brought his backpack.
I'm thinking about that too. I'm like, would I be a good student?
Oh, okay. So it was like
I
that.
did, I
And
did that
he
one
helped us,
class.
and then
Remember
youth
my
build
very
helped
first year? I
us.
did pretty well, actually. I
it
did
was
pretty well. I
just
think I
so
could do
good. And
that.
then we had a group
So
of
actually,
Lowell volunteers,
I asked that
Savannah,
because
that's
I
how I
do
met
remember.
Savannah.
Okay.
Joe. Do
You kinda
remember
mentioned
Joe,
to me,
who
like,
worked
way
with us,
back.
Joe Kapuski,
And
Oh yeah, Joe.
I've also heard it
Yes.
from
He
he
later
later
worked
worked
with
with
us,
us
yeah.
and everything.
He later
But
worked
you
with
did
us.
do some work with the movement of Farmers Without Land in Brazil.
Was the one that
Yeah,
really.
I
I really wanna
And
know
he-
about that because that was
okay.
definitely
He
before
made that
MCG.
look
Yes,
of course.
that was
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
was in
yeah.
college.
Yes, I
also
really
was
want to
just
know
really
about that.
supportive
And,
of the
and
idea,
also,
and,
is that like some sort
and,
of like
you know,
a
I think that
quote
was
unquote
just
catalyst,
really an
right?
epic
That
way
kind
to
of like
transform
made
that
you start
space, 'cause yes,
thinking
you're right,
about
it
like
went from,
food
like,
this way rather than
no,
just
like
being
you
like
could
a
tell she was
commercial
trying to
farmer
like
and all that.
wow,
Totally.
but
Yeah.
he brought in so much
Okay.
compost.
Yeah.
Food. So
Mhm.
when I
Right.
was in college, I worked at
Yeah.
this
Soil.
nonprofit called the
So
Poughkeepsie
he
Farm
helped
Project.
us,
It was we
capped
on land that was at
everything,
Vassar. I went to
landscape
Vassar College in
fabric,
Poughkeepsie,
and
New York,
brought
new
Okay.
compost.
And
I
then
I was
just
doing
tons
their
of
farmers
volunteers,
market,
and that's
and
how we
my
met
favorite
Kathy
part
Burchett.
after the
She
farmers
was
market,
Oh,
I loved
yeah.
just so
Yeah.
many people
Everybody
came to
brought
help at that
snacks, and
space in the
everybody
beginning
Yeah.
to wake up early.
Sometimes,
and it was really
but-
lovely.
Yeah, because
After
sometimes
every
like I
farmers
will
market, we
remember
donated all the
like,
food to this,
and this is like
women's
even
shelter.
before I even like
And, you know,
like
from
just
that point
went
on,
and
I
like
just
say
knew,
what's
like,
up.
getting
Like I
food to
would walk
people
in
who,
and
like,
I would see people,
are
but actually
in
it was like at
moments
the
of need was,
precinct
like, really important to me.
location that
But
sometimes
then I
people
decided
will be
to
just
study
like
abroad
right on
in
the little garden in
Brazil,
front.
and I went
that will
to
be doing
the
stuff
Amazon,
in there. But
I lived in
obviously
the
that
city
was
of
just
Belém,
kind of more
and we
like
did a lot of
curating,
work,
you know, making it look nice and whatnot. But
kind
it
of,
wasn't really
studying
like.
the landless workers movement.
But I was
Movimiento
like,
Sem Terra,
oh,
and
like
it
it's
is
you know,
one
I
of the
always kind of
largest
was like,
social
oh,
movements
there's
in
something going
Latin
on, but like
America,
I really
and
couldn't
so
put like
I did have
you know
this
like
pivotal
what is it
moment
until
where I
I
was
saw you like
working
yeah I
in
think you
this
were like I ended
community.
up
I was,
actually
like,
like
going and
helping you. You were
researching in
like
this
that
community,
day.
yeah,
I will
and
never
living
forget
there.
that.
Seating. I remember
Yeah,
that.
you were seating. That's exactly.
I
what you
remember
were
that.
doing. Yeah.
We were
In the middle of
talking
nowhere.
Yeah.
I think Charlotte was there.
very
too.
lost
Yes,
as a human.
yes.
But
Y'all
I
came in,
went,
and
this
then I think
leader
you kept
in
coming
that
back.
group
Yeah, I kept coming back.
That's the
Another
thing,
small
and that's how I
community
met
who'd been
Christopher
squatting
too.
on
He
their
like
land for
wanted
a
to do a
long
rooftop
time.
Okay.
garden
These
at
were living in
UMass Lowell, and I was
plastic
like,
tents, basically.
Okay,
No,
wow.
like just plastic.
but you can help me see.
It's interesting.
now there is a
the
rooftop
rooftop gardens are you myself. Yeah, no,
And you
the
work
funniest
it,
thing about
you
me
will be
meeting Chris
granted the
that
right
it
to
was like
use it. It's
actually
some old
around that
law.
same
Yeah,
time
yeah.
too. It was like we
and
were
so in that moment,
because you asked
I was
me
there
like,
when they found
hey,
out that the
do you wanna
president,
like
Lula,
volunteer
who's
at
the
this
president
like
then,
Acre
had
Fest
granted
thing? I
them
was like,
that
sure, I'll
land.
go. You know,
And
what do I
it
need to
was
do? It's like,
like,
oh, you know,
I
whatever,
had this
table, whatever.
beautiful,
It's like,
like,
sure.
this
Like I
gave
had
me
no
this
idea what I was
coconut
doing.
ring. I had it
But
for
then
years and
like
years. It
what I
was
did
the
not
most beautiful
know
moment
was
I've
that
ever
like
experienced of
there were
people,
two shifts, you know, because like I was
families
like,
just,
oh,
like,
okay, cool. So
in
I'm there,
pure
and I remember
weeping
like
joy
Chris comes
that they
with his
had
friend. I
the
forget his
ability
friend's
Brendan.
name. Brendan, yeah,
Yeah.
and he
Right?
comes. They were always like
And so I
together,
think
right? And then
that's
like
where
I'm
the
the
understanding
and
of
they come to our
communal
tent,
movements
and I'm just like,
communal
oh, you know,
access to
like and I'm
land
explaining him
became
like
really
for
part
like
of
5
what I
minutes,
thought was,
and then he
like,
just like
part of the
after I finish, he's
solution,
like,
right?
oh, I come to like
Anyway, so, yeah,
substitute
I lo-
you,
and I love
and I'm like,
understanding
oh, well, this is very awkward right now. Like, well,
but I also collective action.
nice to meet
Well,
you.
nice to meet you.
See you
And
later.
then you guys
Yeah.
worked at
My
the
thing.
farm, the urban
Yeah.
farm.
Yes, we
for
did work
summer
at the
together.
actually never. Yeah,
I mean,
like I've only heard like,
far
oh yeah,
back, too.
like Lydia,
And you,
like
and you
once
worked
time
in
in
like
Brazil.
every area.
Yeah,
But
I did
didn't
work
know
in every
how,
area. Like I always,
involved
it's
you
kind of
were in
forget
this
how
farm.
long
I
were
was
you
like,
over
I never
there?
did
Just
education
5
and stuff. And
5
then I look back, I
months.
was like,
Just
oh,
5
that's still,
months.
that's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
almost a
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah,
That's
so
almost-
Yeah,
that
it was
like
amazing. It was an
pretty
amazing
awesome, actually.
experience at a pivotal moment in my life. And so I think
so,
it's true when I went and I
we're
started
kind of like
farming
talking
by
about all these
myself
things.
and only selling to people who could
and-
afford my
but
food, and it was very
I
isolating
want to like
for
also
me
know,
as an individual.
like we were kind of like talking about how like the farm started,
Lowell
like, you know,
offered
it was
this
like the community
opportunity
gardens,
of
right?
being
And
of community
I,
movement.
from what I
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
too,
And I think,
it's
one
like-
thing that I think is so important
there's like
about
another,
the
this is like
origin
another
story
turning
about
point.
Mill
Like
City
we know,
Grows.
we're to
It's
talk
like,
about
I
this
thought it was
urban
gonna be a
farm
farm.
in
I
the
was
middle
like,
of
I want to run a
downtown.
farm.
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
farm to
And
school.
then
Like,
how do we
and then the thing
become,
that actually
or
started
actually not
Mill
what
City
we
Grows
become, how did
is Rotary
we
Community
yeah,
Garden.
it's a
Finally
Rotary
get
and
get the
Dave and
large
Gina
space that we
coach
use
in Back
at,
Central, in that Back
at the
Central,
Fowler, because I think
neighborhood group.
originally
Fowler, yeah.
that was like the
They
original
in
plan
the
maybe.
city,
Yeah.
like,
And
they
but then
were the
like
people that put
yeah,
their-
was
their
this urban
stake and
farm
said, like,
almost also
you
like
want to do this, and
a
Frank and I
turning
were like,
point
yeah,
for
we'll
them
figure
to
out how to
be
run a
like,
community
oh,
garden.
yeah, yeah.
We can do it.
That's
I
how
still
Fowler
have
was,
never
like,
been a member of
big
community
part of
garden
the original vision.
in my
Okay.
whole life. So
I mean, I think you can say you were like
Yeah.
I think you don't have to grow
Yes.
in a garden to be a member of a community
There you
garden.
go.
You know what I mean?
There when they
So
were
I
doing
would
that,
say you
and,
were.
And I think,
And I was, like,
Enrique,
obsessed
you
with
know
it.
this about me.
I'm
Like,
like,
this
community
is
gardens
this is
always
the
were
thing.
like,
This
it was
is what
hard
we
for
have
me
to
because there are
do.
a lot of
Yeah,
social
yeah.
dynamics.
It was
involved.
complicated.
You know, I'm a
There's,
worker.
like,
I'm
no
I like
actual
Yeah.
access
social.
roads.
Sometimes it's hard for me.
Landlocked. There's an easement
but,
through a neighbor.
I
who
still
did
to
not
this
want
day,
us
and I
to
no longer
go
live in
through their
Lowell, but it's
yard.
the
Oh yeah, I remember.
Place that makes me the
Yeah.
happiest when I come back and see Mill City Grows
and
is the vibrancy.
yeah, so
of
there were
those
a lot of
gardens. And you and I
complexities,
put so much,
and the
Oh,
city,
so much love into them. But
you know,
to
we
see
had to
them
really work
working,
with them to understand.
Yeah.
And there's conservation
As they
restriction on
should.
that
That
space.
is awesome. Yeah, I totally
so-
feel like
and the
still like
soils there
now
are
that
really
I'm not
tough,
in the gardens,
you know?
like
And
I
they
still like
build
drive
them
around
up
and I'm
over.
like,
I mean, you remember we were
Yeah.
there.
oh, whenever
first
like
year.
whenever I get to go
Actually,
to one
when
of
I'm
my
like-
my
I was
second
like, I
working
remember
interview
when
was
that was
clearing that farm with
Yeah.
y'all.
Yes.
I remember,
oh, I
like,
remember this person.
borrowing
Yeah,
a
they're
brush
still growing
hog.
those beautiful things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I saw the pictures of the Rotary.
Yeah, you were.
Like, and
I was like,
Oh,
it made
yeah.
me teary.
Yeah, it was so good.
You know,
And
it's
it's to
like
see some
we
of the
all
same
were
people that were
just-
that very first day,
I know.
you know, and I think
which is awesome. Yeah,
that
and
was
actually,
definitely
this also
the
brings
vision
me back
for
in
me, like,
this
my
whole
own
thing, you know,
personal
like
thing
when
that
like
was my
you know, because
passion
like when I
project,
first
but I
started
also
an
think
NCG, like
part
we
of it was
only
like
had three
being able to
gardens at
grow
that
enough
point.
food.
or had just
locally,
built
you know, and I
like,
think
or,
that
like,
was really,
expanded
really
Smith Street,
important.
'cause I
And I mean,
remember,
granted,
I will
we
never
have so
forget
many
that was like
beautiful
my
farms
work.
around
One of my
us,
working
and-
interviews was
but
building
really,
back
like,
that
thinking about
Smith Street
and
expansion,
Lowell's, like, having
and there's
a
like that
bigger
picture of me
production
holding like the
capacity
drill,
was a
like
big
going
part
like
of
this, like y'all
And I
posted like
also
back then.
think
But
it was like
and
people are
this is
interested
actually
in
another
agriculture
question
and
that
how
I
do you
have
connect
for
people?
you that I
Right.
always like think
How do you
about,
connect
and
them
I
to
had
their
never
food? And
asked this
sometimes
to
it's
you.
that like first
And
experience
it's
where
like
a kid goes
you know
and pulls a
when we
carrot out
had
of the
the
ground.
Mill City
And
Girls
those are
had the
things that,
farm in
like, really
downtown,
kind of
right? Like that is not the
kickstart
way
a connection
Yeah.
to food and farming.
I
for a
remember,
lifetime. So yeah.
Yeah, actually,
from
have way
a couple
back,
of stories
even
from that
before.
very
I'm pretty
first
sure
year.
it was even before
And,
NCG
I
existed.
have some memories of that
Yeah.
very first
I
year.
would walk around
Well,
that street
one of
all
my
the time,
favorite
and I would
memories too
always
is
see,
like actually
someone
like
growing in a
because I
corner.
actually knew Savannah
Of there,
from
like, had like a little
film
greenhouse,
music school because we both
Yeah.
went to music school.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
like in the
Sometimes I
same
would
year,
just
maybe
stop and
like a
talk.
couple
I'm
years
talking
ago.
like
You guys
that.
were the best.
Yeah, and then
I mean, like,
so
it's the same
it
thing.
was
I mean,
really
it's been,
funny
like, over a decade,
because
I guess,
like,
at
it
this
was
point.
Chris.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a
Savannah
while.
and
So
I, and
I
we're, like,
kind of
sending
I,
there 'cause, like,
I remember
I
vaguely,
know.
you know,
I
like
know what you're
like
talking
people that are
about.
like listening to
And-
this, right? Like.
But then,
Maybe
like,
having
this is kind of where I
tools.
want to, like,
Like,
talk.
no tools.
No tools. It was
You know,
just
I mean, we
know,
basically
like,
like
the one thing I
paid
didn't know is, like,
somebody to
always
go
wanted to,
till the
like,
field
it be a
once,
farm.
Yeah,
like, an urban
once.
farm.
and it's
and I know
almost
that was
4
the
acres.
very
Yeah,
first
yeah.
And
urban
we
site
had
that we did.
nothing.
Like that was a
Literally
farm. It wasn't a
nothing.
community garden. So yeah, so
like
like I
maybe a
remember.
shovel.
I also know.
Yeah, so we had like
actually, the way
a
I
few
found out about it,
holes,
right?
like,
Yeah.
Then we
was
had
that I
like the
was, like,
circular hose.
I always
Yeah.
Walking.
I was walking. Yeah.
And you walked by us in the greenhouse
And then, like,
at
for-
the
I
boys
remember,
at the
like-
police precinct.
Like, yeah. Like actually,
I
think it was, like,
remember
the very
it
first
every day
that we
seeing
were
you.
gonna, like start like.
And then the
planting or
one
even
day I
making
just
the
straight up
beds and
beeline because I saw you. I
come
never
in,
had
and
noticed you
and
until
I
that
always
day,
find
and
this
I
like
just,
super funny.
And you came in.
Because, like, we
I'm
were, like,
afraid of what you're.
I know.
I
This is so
remember
weird. It's like,
that.
I mean, like
Vividly.
looking
And then
back,
you'd come
but
and
like
you'd
we're
help.
sitting there.
Yeah.
And then, but like
You come in, you
but
go,
then
like,
with
oh,
that,
we're
with the
gonna
urban today we're
farm
gonna
side.
do
that was like a pretty
4
much right
beds
up
and
the
then
street.
yeah, it's
Because I would walk there pretty much
much
then
every
you look
day
at
as
your-
well.
at your sheet and
you
go,
know, like
5,
like a time that I was
six.
just walking,
Keep going, and then you keep adding, and I think it ended up being like 12, and we're just like,
but then one day,
oh wow.
And this was like by
Super,
hand.
like,
I
by
think you guys
hand.
were laying
Because it was like
black
before, I
plastic by
remember
hand.
that was
Yeah, but we were laying
it was
black
like
plastic.
little
Yeah.
Like from a
right
soil
here with
perspective, this
the
soil was
water
like
spigot is or whatever.
to death.
Yep,
It
right.
was.
There
It
was
was.
no
It's just
organic
kind of
matter. There was
Just
like
very
no
almost like
nutrition,
curated,
and the
like landing,
weeds
like
were
rose and I
so
was like,
bad.
It was so bad.
What
It's
is
still kind of
going on
like
in
that.
here?
Like,
Wow.
like
Yeah.
how
I
did
even, you
like
know,
how did
many
they?
years
You know what's in my
like,
mind?
that
I'm
must
still
have
like,
been
how did this lady like so
2014.
quickly?
2014.
Well,
Okay.
that was
So not
Jim.
Layla's
That was Jim
29.
Lachulis.
Okay.
So,
So
Jim
Tomorrow.
Yes.
own that lot. I don't
So-
know.
So Lydia,
but,
I'm gonna tell you. Actually, I'm gonna stop you because I remember this is another story.
Okay.
And this is
I don't know how
actually
we got
probably my
connected
favorite
with him.
story from that very first
that-
year, but it was also the
I really
scariest
wish I could
story.
remember her name.
Okay. I'm also afraid now, but yeah, go ahead.
So,
She was donating everything.
your
to the
due date
Transitional Living
for
Center.
Layla,
But she did
Was
some
October
beautiful
3rd or
stuff.
4th or
And
something.
and
then,
you're at the
things
farm,
there,
Yeah.
she
like
put in a lot
pulling
of the
weeds,
beautiful
and I'm the only
flowers
person that
around.
got there because
She's
Chris is
really
already
a
doing
lovely woman.
Market.
AmeriCorps
And
stuff.
yeah.
she wasn't
And
able
then
to
like
keep
I was
going,
like,
and
because
Jim
then
asked us,
and then I just
and
show
when I was
up.
like,
I
well,
remember I had my
we
MBMX bike. I
gotta
would
get
show up my
Oh my
bike.
God, you would bike. I remember you'd bike to Fowler. Oh my God.
And he brought his
And
bag,
then
no,
I show
Bobcat
up there,
and he
and
just
like
moved
I knew
soil
it was
with
your
us.
due date.
Oh,
and
okay,
I
so it
show
was
up
like
in the
that.
I mean,
morning, and
he
you're
helped
there
us, and then
pulling
you
carrots or
helped us.
something, and I
And
just start
it was
screaming,
just-
Lydia,
and we
it's your
met
due date. I don't
Savannah,
know how to like deliver
Savannah,
me.
that's how I met
Oh yeah,
Savannah.
okay.
Joe.
Yeah, there's like a
Joe.
couple
Joe,
stories
Joe,
like
Joe,
that.
who's
I think.
Oh yeah, Joe.
I definitely
yes.
remember
He-
Francis
he later worked with us,
screaming
yeah.
at me as I was
Later
lifting
worked
like
with us,
a 50-pound box of apples.
Christopher,
She's like,
a bunch
I'm
of
gonna
people
kill
were part of
you.
that, but
You have your baby
was
right
the one
now.
that really
Yeah,
let
it's like I
us.
don't know how to
He
deliver.
used
And
the
I was like,
machine,
go
and
home,
he
go
made that
home.
look
I know, you're like, I
Please
can't
go.
bike you
but he
anywhere.
also was
I
just
only
really
have a
supportive of
bicycle.
the
Oh,
idea.
man.
Oh, Enrique, though, that was the best
And,
year. I mean,
you know,
I
think
look
that
back
that
at all
was
this
just
time and I
really,
think,
really
oh
an
my
epic way to
gosh.
transform that space.
We
Yes,
were
you're right.
just
It went from
so
like,
determined.
like you could
Yeah,
tell
we
he was trying
were.
to like, wow.
Yeah.
But he
You
brought
were
in so much
biking
compost
from
for
one
you. We were
farm to
really
another
thoughtful
in
about,
Lowell.
you know,
Yeah,
So
and
get-
it wasn't even
so
like a
he
road
helped
bike. I
us,
had like a
a
little
tiny
like a-
child-sized bike.
Yeah, it was a child-sized bike that I got from my
We had
previous
like
job.
no
volunteers, and that's how we met
infrastructure,
Kathy.
No.
no
She
vans,
was-
no
just
trucks,
so many
No.
people
nothing.
came to help at that
No,
space.
we actually
beginning.
We had
that.
one truck.
One
Sometimes
truck,
it's really
one
like-
truck.
One
that
truck.
we use.
Yeah,
that
because
we use
sometimes
for
like I
everything.
remember,
Yeah.
like,
Is that truck gone?
and this is like even before I even like
got
like
rid
just
of it.
went
Oh,
and like
I
say
love
there
that
last
truck.
year or the year
Like I
before
would
that.
walk in.
Yeah, so I mean,
And,
like we
and I would
really
see
were
people, but
scrappy,
actually it was
and
like
I
at the
think
precinct,
that I look
location
back.
that
That's part of why I
sometimes
say
people
I'm
will be
scared
just
of what
like
you're
right
gonna
on the
say.
little
It's
garden in front.
I
that we'll
know
be doing
that I was a
stuff
little
in there.
singular focus.
But-
on, like,
but
I
obviously that
gonna
was just
will
kind of
this
more like
thing into
curating,
happening.
you know,
But
making it
also,
look nice and whatnot.
it
But it
wasn't just
wasn't
me. It was
really
like
like.
everybody
Oh,
was
but I was like,
Like-
oh, like it's in, you know, I always kind of was like, oh,
showing
there's,
up for getting
there's
it done.
something
I
going
mean,
on,
you,
but like I
Christopher,
really
Savannah,
couldn't
nobody
put,
had
like,
farming
you know, like,
experience,
what
but
is
you
it
had
until
a
I
leap
saw
of
you,
faith
like-
that you're like,
Yeah, I think you were like, I ended up
gonna do
actually
this.
like helping
We
you.
can
You were
pull
like
this off.
that day.
Yeah, and I
I will
think
never
that
forget
was
that day.
seating. I remember
Yeah,
that.
you were seating. That's
And
exactly.
I remember
what we did.
that.
Yeah,
Tractor
Tractors,
talking
there's
and
equipment, there's vehicles.
Yeah, like
Yes,
to the point
yes.
actually, like
y'all
the
came in
BCS
and
machine,
then I-
that
yeah,
little
kept
till
coming
machine.
back.
I'm
Yeah,
still
I kept
afraid of
coming
it.
back.
Like, I
That's
remember
the
like,
thing. And that's
like
why
I was
my
afraid of
Christopher
it that
too, he,
year,
like,
and I was
wanted
like,
to
like I remember like.
garden at
You know, you
UMass
want
and
like
I
he was
was
like, no, I'm not touching that. I'm sorry, that's way too big for me.
But you
I'm
can
like, I don't know
help
how
me
to do
see.
this. It's interesting.
now there is
There's
a
some
tool.
gardens
Yeah,
and
but
it's
you would,
like,
like, drive a
yeah, no,
dump
yeah.
which I think
The
a lot of
funniest
people
thing
would be
about
afraid
me
of that.
meeting
Yeah,
Chris,
that is true, that is true.
it was like actually
Everybody
around
got their
that same time
tolerance
too.
for
It
what
was like
their
we
risks,
were
what equipment they would risk.
because you
their
asked
lives.
me,
like,
yeah, and I also
hey,
remember
do you
too,
wanna,
like because like
volunteer
that
at
very
this,
first year,
like,
like we
Fest
were
thing? I'm
we
like,
had like
sure,
so
I'll go.
little, you know, what do I need
Right,
to do?
as an
It's like, oh,
organization
yeah,
and
and every
everything.
table,
Yeah.
whatever. That like I had no idea what I was doing.
It was like,
But
and
then,
the
like,
number 5.
what I did
it
not
was like
know
before they
was that
even
like
had the fifth
there were two
floor,
shifts,
Yes.
you know,
or
because like, I was like,
anything.
oh, okay, cool. So I'm
And
there,
then
and I remember Chris
that
comes
like
with his friend. I forget
we
his friend.
got
Brendan.
that fifth floor
Brendan,
right
yeah,
off
yeah,
the
yeah.
elevator
And
where
we
it was
come
You
to
remember
always
that?
like together.
It
right?
was
And
like-
then,
this is
crazy.
crazy,
I'm
but Jim like
and
saved
they come
us
to our
again.
tent, and I'm just like,
You know,
oh,
we
you
had
know,
to
like
move our
I'm
walk-in
explaining him like
cooler.
for
We
like 5
bought a
minutes,
walk-in
and then
cooler.
like
from
the
her
other
sweet
Lydia,
Lydia.
from Sweet Lydia, because I used to work there too. You know?
Right.
I'm like,
And
oh,
we
well, this is very
somehow
awkward
conned
right
somebody
now.
into
Like,
moving
well,
it to the like
yeah,
Jim
that's
was so
amazing.
nice
Yeah.
that you let us
See
do
you
and
later.
then, and then you
We
guys
built
worked at the
the-
farm.
ours too. They
Yes,
we
with
did
that guy
like
Jan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
think the only
you
thing
go
we
pretty
didn't do
far
was
back,
put
too.
the actual
And you-
like
and you
machine
worked
part
in,
because
like,
it was
every
too heavy.
area.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
work in
Now we
every
just-
area.
and
Like
we
I
were
always,
like,
it's kind of funny because
we
for
were
me, I
so
was like, I
scrappy,
never
and I
did
think,
dedication and stuff.
you
And then I
know,
look back, I was like,
there were
actually,
some
yes.
Yeah.
struggles that maybe
So
we
yeah,
should have
that
not
was like
have
pretty
done.
awesome actually. And then yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
so,
we got some stuff done.
we're
And
kind
people
of like
were
talking about all
so
these
generous.
things.
I mean, to think that Jim let us put a
and-
cooler on the 5th
but-
floor.
Yeah.
I want to like
Why?
also know, like
Yeah.
we were
I
kind
know,
of
it
like
was
talking
so
about how
nice.
the
It
farm
was
started.
nice,
Like, you know,
yeah, it was
like
awesome
the
because,
community
like,
garden.
It was also
Right.
crazy that we
And
thought, hey, a
I-
cooler on the
from what I
5th floor of a
understand,
mill
too,
makes the most sense.
it's like,
but
yeah,
it did. It
there's
really
like
did. It
another
was
what
like,
we were
another
doing.
turning
That's
point.
what we
Like,
could
know,
do,
we're
and also
talking
that
about this urban
partnership
farm
was
in
like
the middle of downtown.
really helped us get off the ground, and
And
so many
then
partnerships
how do
helped
we
us get
become-
off the ground
or
to where we are
how
now.
will we become?
And to the
How
point,
do
like, now,
we
like,
get
it's
to
like,
finally
and
get
like,
to
this
get
is something
that
like this
large
deer in
space that we
specific.
use
It's like
at
I
the
tell
fall, because I
sometimes
think
some of the folks
originally
that
like
just
that was
being
like
here
the
for
original
like a
plan
few
maybe,
months,
Yeah.
right? Like,
And but then
now we
like
have like a CSA,
yeah, it was
right?
so
Like, we
was
didn't
this urban
even,
farm
like,
almost
couldn't
also
even
like
imagine that
a
back
turning
then.
point for them to
Yeah.
be like, oh,
But we do
this
like a
actually-
delivery. We
So
bring
yeah,
it to
that
people,
that
and then
that
like I
site
always go
power
like,
was, like,
haha.
a
I
big
remember
part
when
of
I
the
would like
original
deliver
vision.
to restaurants on
In
a,
the
on
bike.
A, in the
With
bike.
the cart. We thought that was like the best thing too. Yes, it was amazing. That delivery
There's a
cart.
farm
I
there,
probably
and they
still
were
have
doing
pictures
that,
of
and,
you. So
Yeah.
yes,
And I
you would
was, like,
deliver to
obsessed
restaurants
with
in
it.
the
I was
cart
like,
with
this
2
is-
bins on
this
it.
is
Yeah.
the thing.
And
That
the-
is
This
so
what we have to
amazing.
do.
The
Yes.
craziest thing
But it was
about it,
complicated
Lydia,
because
and I
there's,
think
like,
about
no
like
actual
how
access
crazy
road. It's
I was,
landlocked. There's an easement.
and
through
I
a
was like, oh,
neighbor
I'm
who
so
did
glad
not
nothing
want
really
us to
happened. Was
go
the
through
fact
their
that like
yard.
I would stack up like
Yeah.
5 bins high,
And
I would ride
yeah,
them
so there
down
were a
on the
lot
roads
of
of downtown on
complexities,
this bike.
and the city.
But then I had not even anywhere to
you know, we
strap
had
it
to
on. I was
really
just
work
like,
with them to
I
understand
think I
there's
have good
conservation
enough
restriction on that
balance. I'm
space.
gonna go do this, and I'm just gonna
I
go.
know
You know?
the things that you did,
They've been
but
building
at
them
the
up
same
over-
time,
and
the
you
thing
remember,
that was
we were
really
there the
cool
first
about
year.
that
The very
moment
first,
in
yeah.
time of the
Actually, it was like
organization-
my
Yes.
second working
For
interview was
me,
clearing
it
that
was
farm
like
with
being
y'all.
able to
Yeah.
touch everything. Like,
I
small
I
enough that you
remember
could do-
like
really did
borrowing
everything.
a brush
You know,
hog.
I
I
could
could show up at the
I
farm.
could-
I'm sure I
we could
was
harvest.
pregnant with
I
Layla.
would go
Yeah, you were.
eggs and great
And,
grands, but yeah, I definitely
It's
like
me. I remember
burnt
my
myself
brother
out
was
by
visiting
working.
for
I
some
think we
reason.
all
You know,
worked
it's
a
like
little
we
bit
all were
crazy.
just
We
Yeah.
worked really
working
hard,
on it,
you know,
Mhm.
and
I
really
think,
long hours.
and
maybe
that was definitely
maybe
the
the
balance
for
was
me, like my own personal
but
thing that was
having
my
a kid,
passion
and a
project.
family,
But I
like,
also
made
think
me
part of it
really
was
have
like
to
being able to grow
retool
enough
my
food
capacity.
locally, you know,
work
and I
that
think
much,
that that was
but
really, really I think important. I still tried and to I mean, keep up granted, we have for a so while, many and that's beautiful probably why I'm farms still so around tired. us, and,
But
really like
but we
thinking
did some
about
cool
food
stuff. I mean,
security
the
and goals,
biking
like
and
having a
delivering by
bigger
bike.
Yeah,
production
that was so
capacity
cool.
was a big part
Yeah,
of it.
and like I think
And
it
I
was a guy
also
from Jim
think
from City
it was
Bicycle
like-
that built it.
People
He
are
built it.
interested.
I
built it
remember
for
we
us.
got
in
like
how
a
do you connect
child
people,
trailer.
right?
Yeah.
How do you
I
connect
think
them to their
Alyssa
food? And sometimes it's that like
Faulkner
first
donated a
experience
child's
where a kid
bike
goes and
trailer
pulls
to
a carrot
us.
out of the ground.
Okay.
And those are the things
and then
that
I
really
think
kind of can start
he built
a
that.
Yeah.
connection
People
to
were
food
just
and
with like
farming
recycled
for a
pellets.
lifetime. So
Again,
yeah.
people were so
Yeah, I actually have
how
a
they
couple
wanted to
stories
help
from
us.
that very
Yeah,
first
you
year.
know?
It was like, and
I have some memories
I
from
always
the
Yeah.
remember
first year.
delivering to,
well, one of my favorite
one of the
memories too
restaurants
is like
downtown. I don't
actually like
remember which one it was
because I
right
actually
now.
knew Savannah
But,
from
like, I would
from
always
film
bring
music
the
school because we
stuff,
both
Yeah.
went to
and then,
music
like,
school.
Yeah.
Like we
the
were
guy
like
would
in the
always
same year,
get
maybe like a couple
the
years
bin
in, but
for
like
You guys were the best.
would
yeah,
always
and
say,
then
the strongest
so
lesson
it was
like
really
in Lowell
funny.
because of
Yeah,
like,
for
the-
sure. Not only for you
and we're like standing
biking,
there 'cause,
like from farm to
if-
farm,
if,
but
you
you're
know,
also
like,
biking
yeah,
produce
people that
around.
are like
Yes,
listening
not
to
just
this,
like
right?
small,
Like
for
Yeah,
sure.
it was so crazy.
we didn't have
Yeah.
any tools.
Like
No
no tools.
No tools. It was
And
just
I
like
mean,
so
we
we
basically
grow
like
from
paid
all these
somebody
kind
to
of
go
like
till the
almost
field
like
once.
manual,
once.
you know, like
And it's
legit manual work.
almost
because,
4
you know, it's like
acres.
full on
And we
manual
had nothing.
work.
Literally
you know,
nothing.
obviously we
So, yeah, so,
like
like, I
maybe a
remember-
shovel.
Yeah, so we had
Now,
like
I'm-
a few
like, honestly,
holes,
me
like
being
Yeah.
here, like,
then we had like
I
the circular
look back and I'm like,
Yeah.
ones, and
you know,
then,
Yeah.
like,
yeah, like
Yeah.
shovels and
you know,
whatever.
like, wow.
But
you know,
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
like
we're
we're just looking at
actually,
like
I
a
think it
big
was like
TV
the very
screen that we
first
use
day
something
that we
for
were
video,
gonna
so
like
I'm just
start
kind of
like
you know,
planting or
Yeah.
even making the
couldn't even
beds.
think
and
about that back
you
then.
come in, and
Right.
I
In
always
fact, we
find
have,
this like super
office
funny.
chairs.
Exactly.
we were
I'm
like,
afraid of
we're
it.
like
We're
in
like
a-
a
this is
desk.
yeah, we're like, I'm really like
mini
looking back, but
conference
like
room.
we're
That's
sitting
like the
there,
craziest
and
thing
then
about it.
Yes.
you come
Like,
in,
Because
you
we
go
were
like,
all
oh,
in
we're
one
gonna-
room.
today
When
we're
we
gonna
started at
do
the
4
YWCA,
beds,
Kathy
and then, yeah,
gave
it's
us her
doable.
office.
And then you look at
Kathy
your- at your
Kobos
sheet
gave
and
us
go,
her
5.
office. And we fit
6.
like 6 people in that
And then you
office.
keep adding anything, it ended up being like
I
12,
don't know
and
how
we're
we
just
did
like,
it, but she was
oh,
very.
wow.
And this was
Come at
like
us.
by hand. I
By
think you guys
hand.
were
And we
laying
stored
black
so many
plastic
bins
by
and we were
hand.
lugging
Yeah, but we were
up and
laying
down
black
the stairs.
plastic,
And now,
yeah.
like,
You're
from
at
a
a
soil perspective,
ground
this soil
floor
was
office
like
space with a
beaten
loading
to
dock.
death, right?
It was,
There
it
was
was.
no
like,
organic
crazy.
matter.
Yeah, like it's
like
really
no
it's like
nutrition,
mind-blowing, like,
and the
like,
weeds
and
were
it's crazy,
so
like, the fact
bad.
that,
It was
like,
so bad.
you know,
It's still kind of
like
It's
that. Right?
still,
Being
Yeah.
pretty
even
much
you know how many
every
years
stage,
later?
I
Like
guess.
that must have been 20,
So like
30.
it's like
2014.
14?
sometimes the
2014.
Okay,
gradual
so
part
9,
of it,
because
like,
Layla's
because
turning
you
9
see it all
Oh my God.
tomorrow.
whatever, you kind of
So
really
9
don't
years.
Tomorrow?
really
Yes.
think about
So-
it.
So Lydia, I'm gonna tell you.
And then all of a sudden now
Actually, I'm gonna
talking
stop
to
you
you,
because
I'm
I
like,
remember
Okay.
this is another
Yeah.
story.
Okay.
That's
And it's
kind of
things
actually
that
probably
we
my
did
favorite
to
story
build
from
this,
that
and
very
the
first
things
year,
you
but it was
learn
also the
along the
scariest
way, but
story.
the things
of the very
Okay.
first
Can't
year.
I'm also afraid now, but yeah, go ahead. Without learning.
So,
and I
your
will say
due
that, like,
date
you know, the idea
for
of a lot of the
Layla
manual stuff. There
was
were a lot
October
of people that
3rd or
helped bring
4th or
different
something.
and you're
ideas,
at the
like,
farm,
remember- I don't know
like
if you
pulling
remember
weeds,
Todd,
and I'm
but
the
he
only person that
worked
got there
for
because
us
Chris
for a
is already
season,
doing
and
the
he
Marine Corps stuff.
yeah.
And then like I was like, yeah, because
he ran the farm.
and then I just
He
show
was
up.
really, like,
I remember
brought the
I had my
market gardener
MPMX
and
bike. I would show up my
Jean
bike.
Portier.
You would bike. I remember you'd bike to
That was the
Valor.
start
Oh my
of that, and then a
God.
bunch of people
And
got more
then,
into
and then I show
no-till.
up there.
Or
and
like
I knew it was
Gallagher
your due
helped
date,
kind of
and I
design
show up in the
that
morning, and
new
you're there pulling carrots or something.
mobile market
and
to
I
be
just
more
start screaming,
efficient. You know,
Lydia,
and
it's your due date. I don't know how to
it's like a lot.
yes,
It's like way stronger, way
Yes.
better,
There's like
longer,
a couple
easier to
stories like
fix.
that.
exactly. You guys did that together. I remember that.
I
So yeah, like
definitely
some of it is
remember
like learning from your
Francie
mistakes, but
screaming at me as I
also
was lifting
bringing
like
in
a
different
50
people
pound
and
box of apples.
ideas.
She's like, I'm gonna kill
and
you.
and also
You
just
have your
I
baby
would
right
say
now.
there's so much more on the national movement,
like,
an
go,
international
go.
movement
You
around
know,
you're like, I
urban
can't bike you
agriculture
anywhere. I
and
only have a
no-till
bicycle.
farming, where people are publishing
man.
Oh,
books and
Enrique,
sharing
though, that was the
resources in a
best year.
deeper
I mean, I
way.
look back at all
And
this
now Mill
time
City
and I
Grows
think,
is part
oh
of
my
that
gosh.
resource sharing. But I think
We were just
in the
so
beginning,
determined.
you know, there were
Yeah,
a lot
we
of
were
other people that we could
Yeah.
learn
You
from,
were
you know,
and
from one farm to
then
another.
a lot
And
of
people
people
started bringing
Yeah,
their
and
skills
it
and
wasn't even like a
talents here,
road
and I
bike. I
think,
had like a
and
little
tiny
like
child-sized bike.
Yeah, it was a
feedback.
child-sized
Yeah, always
bike that
providing
I got from
feedback
my
We
to
had
the
like
youth and-
no
and growing the
infrastructure,
organization
no
in different
vans,
ways, and I
no
think that was
trucks,
really,
no
really a
nothing.
huge part of why we
No,
are
we
here
actually
today.
We had
had
one
that-
truck.
one
And,
truck, one truck
One
that
truck.
we use for everything. Even to
Yes.
that,
Is that truck gone?
like
Just
just
got rid of it.
and I
I
just
think
kind of
like
love
either
that
last
truck.
year or the year
we
before.
were talking about the big
Yeah,
farm.
so I mean, like
and,
we
you know,
really
the
were
neighbors that
scrappy,
kind of
and I
like,
think that
yeah,
that
first
like,
didn't like
I
it,
look back as part of why I
and
say
all
I'm
that,
scared of what you're
and
gonna say. Is like
I think they
I
moved on
know
since.
that I was a little
but
singular
one of the things
focused,
I
and
heard,
like
and I don't know
I
if you
was
know
gonna
this.
will
I
this
don't know.
thing into happening.
So,
but also
so recently,
it wasn't
actually,
just
I
me, it was
learned
like
this as of
everybody
like
was
last week,
so
right?
like
And it's
yeah,
like
everyone was
there's
showing
like some
up for
people that
getting it
moved
done.
in
I mean,
there.
you, Christopher, Savannah, nobody
and
had farming
The
experience,
reason
but
they
you had a
moved in
leap
there
of faith
was
that you're
because
like,
they saw
yeah,
the farm.
we're gonna do
And
this.
they
We can pull
needed
this
to
off.
be
And I
right
think that
next
that
to
was
this
really
farm.
cool.
So it went
That's
from
Look at it now.
amazing.
so
There's
it went
tractors,
from
there's
like
equipment,
some
there's
neighbors
vehicles.
being
Yeah,
kind
like
of
to the
like,
point actually that
being like,
the
oh,
BCS
I don't-
machine
I
that
don't
like
like
BCS.
BCS.
I'm still afraid of it.
Yeah.
Like I remember like I was
This is a
afraid of
value
it that
add to
year,
my
and I was
property.
like,
I have
remember,
to
like,
move here.
and also like
he was like, no, I'm not touching that. I'm sorry, that's way too big for me. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I'm not like kind of
and
like,
then
Chris
from
would be like,
farming
okay.
family
Yeah, but you would like drive a
Oh.
dump
and they
trailer.
were like, I want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
like
Which I think a
really
lot of
do
people would
this,
be
and then
afraid of
also
that.
like
Yeah,
every
that is
year
true. That
you
is
like,
true.
oh, the
Everybody
house,
got their
and pretty
tolerance
much
for
every
what
year
their
one new
risks-
garden has popped
what
up.
equipment they would risk.
Amazing.
So like,
Yeah,
now
I
maybe
love
like
that.
And I
4 or
also
5 of the
remember
houses
too,
have,
like
I
because
love
gardens
that
like
very
pretty
first
big,
year,
you
like
know?
Yes.
like
And
we
everything
were
was just
we had like
Oh
so
my gosh,
little.
I love that.
So
Right,
so
I
yeah,
haven't
so
been out
that's
to
just
Valor in a
everything.
while, but now
Yeah.
I want to go
That,
check
like,
it out. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, it's
It was like
it's pretty
in the
cool.
mill number
So yeah, that was like one thing like
before
actually
they
like
even
I really
had the
wanted to
fifth
tell you because
floor.
Yes.
I do
Or
remember
anything.
those struggles to myself.
And
like,
then
Yes.
I
hearing
remember
that,
People
that
would call and be like, the
we
compost
got that fifth
smells.
floor right
I'm
off the
like,
elevator where it was
Do you
like
remember
Think
that?
about
it
I
was
mean,
like
this is
crazy.
crazy.
I mean, I
But
think it
Jim
was
like
like
saved
the
us
whole
again.
digging some
You know, we
trees for
had to move our
arborvitaes
walking
so we
Yeah.
can create a buffer
We bought
on the
Yeah.
fence.
cooler.
Yeah, from
And
the other
Sweet
Lydia.
Lydia.
Yeah, from Sweet Lydia,
I
because I
was
used to
also
work
just
there
doing
too.
like
That's
that.
right. And
'Cause we were doing like a
somehow
farm
conned
tour
somebody into
recently
moving
with,
it to
like,
the
a
like.
Yeah, I
The
remember
gym
who
was
did
so
it.
nice that he
Yeah,
let us do
comedian
that.
And I think
And-
we built it
And then,
on
like,
ours too.
I
Like,
didn't-
Yeah,
I
the
didn't
only
say
with
thing
that
that
guy
we-
Jan.
I think the only
at the
thing we
meeting,
didn't do
right?
was like put the
But it's like
actual
another
like
kind of funny
machine
part
Yeah.
because it was too heavy for
Yes.
us. But I mean, at the
Yeah.
moment, it
That
was
was
super
just
frustrating.
And we were
right?
like,
But,
yeah, we were
we
so
were talking
scrappy.
about the
And I
deer
think,
fence.
you know,
yeah.
there were some
and I remember again
struggles
that
that
very
maybe
first
we
season we
should have
didn't even
not
have
had
fence
done.
at the farm, and then
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
then like
I mean, we
I don't
got
know
some
who
stuff
had
done. And
told
people
us or
were
who or
so
how did we
generous.
come
I mean,
up
to
with
think
that.
that Jim let us
I'd
put
heard
a
that
cooler
like
on the
soap
fifth
was a
floor.
deterrent
Yeah.
for deer.
Yes, I remember somebody
Yeah.
told us, and
Like,
it was
and
so nice.
It was
told us
nice.
that.
And we
yeah, it
had
was awesome
Irish
because,
Spring
like,
soap.
It was
on
also
sticks
crazy that we
all
thought
over.
cooler on the
and then we
fifth
came one day and all the the colors were gone.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah, it
Including
really
the
did. It was
soap.
like,
What we were doing.
that's what we could do, and also that partnership was like really helped us get off the ground, and so many partnerships
I
helped
actually
us
just
get
thought
off
about
the
that.
ground to
Yeah.
where we are now.
What I
And
wanted
to
to
the point
bring
like
this
now,
with,
like
the
it's
whole
like
drone,
I and
like,
like
you
this
know,
is
and
something like
agriculture
this
things,
deer
like,
in
I know you
specific.
also are kind of
It's like
involved with like
I tell
some like
sometimes some of the
stay
folks
like
that
after
like
Yeah.
just
like
been
you
here
started
for
with
like a
NCG,
few
but you're
months,
still
right?
doing
Like
some of these
now we have like a
agricultural,
CSA,
like,
right?
consulting
Yeah.
and all that,
Yeah.
and I want to
Yeah.
know
Wouldn't
about
even
what you're
imagine
doing.
that.
What am I doing?
On your
Then,
post,
right?
MCG,
But we do like
Yeah.
a delivery
stuff.
and we bring it to people.
Yeah,
And then, like,
well, I
always
mean,
go, like,
I
"Haha,
think I don't know.
remember
if
when I would like
everybody
deliver
knows,
to
but, like,
restaurants
Francie
on
and I
In the
on
bike.
in the
Wow.
bike.
We thought that was like the best thing. big too. Yes, it was amazing.
That delivery cart. I probably still have pictures of you. So yes, you would deliver to restaurants in a cart with 2 bins stuff. That is so amazing.
The craziest thing about it, Lydia, and I think about like how crazy I was.
Maybe 2.
And I was like, oh, I'm so glad nothing really happened. Was the fact that like
Jessica
I would stack up like 5 bins high, and I would write them down on the road so downtown on this bike. But then I had not even anywhere to strap it. I was just like, I think I have good enough balance. So I'm gonna go do this, and I'm just gonna go.
The things that you did,
pretty easy.
But at the same time,
for me to kind of really cool about that moment in time in the organization. Hadn't expected not working. I actually had a job lined up that like it was small enough that you could do. You really did everything. You know, I could shop at the farm. We could harvest. I started consulting. I would go to meetings. One of our funders actually reached out to me. Yeah, I definitely like Ogilvy burnt myself out by working. We all worked if we could all start crazy. We worked really hard to help some really long hours through COVID. So maybe Liz and I started facilitating that group, and I just started consulting from there with different food system nonprofits, and then really have because there's a lot of money coming out for farmers. Food security to work that much. But I was writing grants for farmers for a while, and that's probably just basically consulting part time and being home with my kids. But we did some cool stuff. I mean, the biking and delivering by bike.
Yeah,
my kids didn't actually start going back to school.
Yeah, and like I think it was a guy from Jim from City Bicycle that built it.
He built it.
I remember we got like a child trailer from the
I think Alyssa
in school
Faulkner donated a child's bike trailer to us.
So I really did create an intentional shift to spend more time with them.
He built that.
I always laugh now that it's not about quality time for me, it's about quantity.
So creative. Whether or not they're nice to me, you know. We all have high spirits in my family. But yeah, so I've been consulting since then.
I don't remember which one it was right now.
And also
like I would always garden myself, and then like
I kind of work mostly with food system nonprofits.
Would always say,
not just urban,
the strongest Lex in Lowell because of
for sure. Not only were you biking,
folks that kind of really
from farm to farm, but you're also biking produce around.
Yes, and strategic planning work with my partner Jay Harrison, and I do that.
And so
I work with a former executive director, Jessica O'Neill, at Just
all
Fruit.
these kind of like almost like
we do some work
manual,
together,
you know, like legit manual
and
work
it's really broad. Sometimes it's around fundraising and grant writing.
You know, obviously
sometimes it's around
you know where we are
strategic
right now,
planning,
but like
organizational development. I'm supporting one group right now with an executive transition.
You know,
and another group with a big USDA. I'm also
I'm just looking at like a big TV screen that we
redesign their outdoor spaces. So yeah, I'm kind of varied in my consulting.
Couldn't even think about that.
I
was doing this exactly.
That's the thing about consulting. It's never really
conference room. That's like the craziest thing about it.
Yeah, and then also
because we were all in one room
when we started at the YWCA. Kathy gave us her office. Kathy Kobos gave us her office. Work with and we a really great property management team to 6 people in that office. Rentals are in good shape. And I don't know how we did it, but she was very kind to let us. Hopefully, going to get back into farming a little bit more. I'm starting a little seed garlic business up and down elevators, and now I know I'm excited about it. Kind of heirloom seed with garlic varieties, and
it's so crazy.
It's got a lot of other business ideas in my mind that I'm going to try to see if I can make happen.
It's crazy, like the fact that
you know, I love
like from my perspective.
You know, we moved to West Newbury right when I was leaving Mill City Grows because I grew up really rural in South Carolina, and I was having a really hard time being a parent in the city. I don't know what to do with my children.
You're not an urban person.
I'm not super urban. I love cities because I love community, but I also
the things that we did to build this, and the things we go outside along the way. Because I think you know that's how I grew up. Like go outside.
Oh, me too. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing.
So it was a struggle for me. You know, being manual stuff. There were a lot of people that helped bring different ideas. Like remember, I don't remember. I always say this. I'm like, I hate playgrounds for a season, and I don't like Emily and Janelle worked with him. So I'm like the worst parent. But he ran the farm. I just don't like to do those things. I'll take a walk in the woods any day. I'll sit in kind of methodologies to the farm, and so that was the start of that. And then a bunch of people got more into no-till, or like Gallagher helped kind of design that new. So I mean, mobile market to be more efficient,
and the new garden bed design that we use, that is like a lot,
to be able to
it's like way stronger, way better lumber, like easier to fix.
Exactly. You guys did that together.
Yeah, and both my kids,
that. So yeah, like some of it is like learning from your mistakes, but also
for the first
time Joe's in kindergarten and Liz in third grade. And also just, I would say there's so much more on the national international movement around urban agriculture and no-till farming, where people are publishing books and sharing resources in a deeper way. And now Mill City Grows is part of that resource sharing. But I think, in the beginning, there weren't a lot of other people that we could learn from. And so, but then a lot of people started bringing their skills and talents here. I'd already given birth to this organization that Francine and I were really like always providing feedback, nurture, always providing feedback to things, and and growing the organization in different ways. And I think that was really a lot, a huge part of why we are here today. To have better expectations of myself and actually beings. So hopefully,
even to that point,
hopefully that softness can keep going.
Remember, like you were saying,
it has. I think it has.
Because we're talking about the big farm,
I think that is for me. That is like the last thing I have to ask you. And all that. I just really want to thank you.
I think they moved on
awesome.
since.
Yeah, thank you for doing this, and thank you for capturing the history of this organization. I think
so recently, actually, I learned this.
It's hard sometimes. We're always looking forward. This is a growth-oriented organization
a
lot of times.
There's like
I think that is exhausting in some ways.
It is.
Yes, and I think
the reason they moved in there was because they saw the farm.
Gratitude,
and they needed to be right next to this farm. So it went from
amazing.
So it went from like some neighbors being
really
kind of
like being able to be
like, I don't like this idea of having a farm here.
So this is a value add to my property.
I think I've been talking about this, doing this for you forever.
I'm doing it too. I love it.
Thank
you, Enrique.
I know. Thank you for taking the time. Take one from West Newbury, right?
West Newbury.
West Newbury, all the way here.
Only 35 minutes.
Every year
still.
It's still on the rural. Kind of pretty much every year.
I know. I get to watch it.
Now like maybe like 4 or 5 of the houses have like
gardens. I used to do that as a kid. That was my first agriculture business.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's Fowler and White, but now I really want to check it out. That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, that was like one thing. Like actually, like I really wanted to tell you because I do remember those struggles to myself. Like hearing that
people would call and be like, the compost smells. I'm like, it smells pretty good to me, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was like the
digging some trees for arborvitaes so that we can create a buffer on the fence.
Yeah, and actually, I was also just remembering like because we were doing like a farm tour recently with like a few members from actually the Committee on Agriculture.
Yeah,
and then like I didn't say this at the meeting, right? But it's like another kind of funny anecdote. But I mean, at the moment, it was super frustrating, right? But we were talking about the deer fence.
Oh, yeah.
At the garden. And I remember, again, like that very first season, we didn't even have a fence at the farm. And then like, I don't know who had told us or how did we come up with that we had heard that like soap was a deterrent for deer.
Yes, I remember somebody told us. Who told us that? And we had Irish Spring soap on sticks all over.
And then we came one day and all the collars were gone.
Yeah.
Including the soap that was beaten off by like clearly beaten off by deer, right? Well, then I actually just thought about that. But what I wanted to bring this with like the whole joint, like, an agriculture thing is like, I know you also are kind of involved with like some like stayed like after, like you started with MCG, but you're still doing some of these agricultural like consulting and all that. And I want to know about what you're doing.
What am I doing?
On your post MCG stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if everybody knows, but like Francine and I took a while to figure out how we're going to exit MCG, and we were supposed to both be done kind of June 2020. My big last project was working on the office renovation and the commercial kitchen and stuff, but then COVID hit, and my kids were home, and they were really young still, 5 and 1, maybe 2, 5 and 2, And so Jessica was nice enough to be like, yeah, I mean, do what you need to do. And I did as much as I could to like finish some file transferring and stuff. But I like, you know, we'd hired my replacement, Allie, as the director of programs, and they'd already started. So, you know, it was a pretty easy way for me to kind of step back. But I hadn't expected not working. I actually had a job lined up that then didn't because of COVID. So I started consulting. One of our funders actually reached out to me and Liz Ogilvy to see if we could help start this urban agriculture coalition to help support organizations through COVID. So Liz and I started facilitating that group, and I just started consulting from there with different food system nonprofits and then farmers, because there's a lot of money coming out for farmers, food security infrastructure grants. So I was writing grants for farmers and just basically consulting part-time and being home with my kids part-time. And, you know, my kids didn't actually start going back to school until the fall of 2020. And even then they were in school like for 4 hours, which was very different from the life I was living before, where they were like in school for 9 hours basically. And they were babies. But so I really did like create an intentional shift to spend more time with them. I always laugh now that it's like, it's not about quality time for me, it's about quantity. Whether or not they're nice to me, and I'm we all have high spirits in my family. But yeah, so I've been consulting since then, and also growing a huge garden myself. And yeah, I kind of work mostly with food system nonprofits, not just urban nonprofits, also kind of peri-urban and rural folks that kind of really focus on food access work. I do some strategic planning work with my partner, Jay Harrison, and I do that. I work with a former executive director, Jessica O'Neill, at Just Roots. She was at Just Roots. We do some work together. And it's really broad. Sometimes it's around fundraising and grant writing. Sometimes it's around strategic planning, organizational development. I'm supporting one group right now with an executive transition, and another group with a big USDA grant. And I'm also working with my kids' school on helping them redesign their outdoor spaces. So yeah, I'm kind of varied in my consulting. I'm just doing this and that. Yeah, that's the thing about consulting. Awesome. It's never really it's like project based. And then also Derek, my husband, and I, we own some residential real estate in Lowell, and so still do that, and you know, work with a really great property management team to make sure that our rentals are in good shape, and are so that's the other thing that I work on. And hopefully going to get back into farming a little bit more. I'm starting a little seed garlic business this year. Ooh. I know. I'm excited about it. Kind of heirloom seed garlic varieties, and got a lot of other like business ideas in my mind that I'm going to try to see if I can make happen. You know, I love, you know, we moved to West Newbury right when I was leaving Mill City Grows, because I grew up really rural in South Carolina, and I was having a really hard time being a parent in the city. I don't know what to do with my children. Person. You're not an urban person. That's what I meant to say. I'm not super urban. I love cities because I love community, but I also like, I just didn't know what to do without being like, go outside and play. You know, that's how I grew up. Like, go outside. Oh, me too. It's kind of the same thing. So it was a struggle for me, you know, being a parent in the city. And like, I always say this, I'm like, I hate playgrounds and I don't like kid play spaces, so I'm like the worst parent, but not really. I just like don't like to do those things. I'll take a walk in the woods any day. I'll sit outside and I will do things outside. I will play imaginative games or cook with my kids, but I really struggle with those other things. So, I mean, moving to a more rural environment has been important for me to like feel a little bit calmer in my body, to be able to be the parent that I'm trying to be. Yeah. Whether or not I'm succeeding, I don't know, but you are. I think you are. Yeah. And both my kids, this is a pretty monumental year. Both my kids are in school for the first time. Joe's in kindergarten and Layla's in 3rd grade. So it's a big year, and I think it's like giving me some space to really think about what I want to work on. And, I think when I was at Mill City Grows, it was like, I remember, because this is the day before Layla was born. I remember walking down the sidewalk, crying to Derek saying, I already have a baby. It's Mill City Grows. And I had this deep panic inside that I'd already given birth to this organization that Francie and I were really trying to nurture. But I think having children, Christopher says this to me, softened me a lot as a person because it allowed me to have better expectations of myself and of human beings. So hopefully that softness can keep going.
It has. I think it has.
Yeah.
And I think that is, for me, that is the last thing I had to ask you.
Yeah.
I just really want to thank you because actually, this has been awesome.
And thank you for doing this, and thank you for capturing the history of this organization. I think it's hard sometimes when you're always looking forward. This is a growth-oriented organization a lot of the time. Yeah. I think that is exhausting in some ways.
It is.
Yes, and I think sometimes looking back and having gratitude for all the human beings and all the plants and all of the soil that has gone into building something really incredible, and being able to be okay in that is really, really important. So thank you for capturing that story.
No problem. I think I've been telling you about doing this project forever. Finally doing it. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Enrique.
I know. Thank you for taking a time of your take on from West Newburyport, right?
West Newbury.
West Newbury, all the way here.
Only 35 minutes.
Oh, still it's still on the rurals.
It's so rural. I am. I get to watch chickens lay eggs. Sometimes I do. So there you go.
That is awesome. I used to do that too as a kid. That was my first agriculture business, chickens.
Yes. All right, Enrique. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
All right.